All right, guys, welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today we're going to be looking at Week 11 recap in college football. Before we go to the Saturday slate, Pittsburgh on Thursday beat North Carolina in overtime 30-23. That Pitt secondary, they continue to give up frequent big plays. That's an issue for them. On Friday, Cincinnati 45-28 over USF. Again, not an impressive win, I guess you could say, from USF. It's better than they have done the last 3 weeks. But style points kind of matter, so we'll see how the committee feels about that one. Wyoming fell to Boise State 23-13, also on Friday night. So let's go ahead and jump into the Saturday slate. Georgia and Tennessee. A lot of people are interested to see how this Tennessee offense looked against Georgia. You know, that first drive, they went right downfield and scored. After that, a mild success. They had actually 10 total points in the first quarter. They ended the game with only 17, so Georgia did a great job of dealing with the tempo, not giving up big plays. Tennessee had spurts of success throwing the ball. I thought their offensive line held up pretty well. Some of those underneath routes they did a good job with. The Bulldogs didn't give up any big plays, though. On the second play of the game, they had Velus Jones, I think, was wide open on what would have been a touchdown. It was overthrown. Other than that, though, they didn't get beat deep whatsoever. Georgia, they started a little slow offensively. They started to get things going. They scored every quarter, though, especially in the second. They had 17 points. They did get off to a slow start, though. Bennett, I liked how he played, not just with his arms. I thought he made some good plays with his legs as well. He played a very good game. James Cook, Zamir White, they did some work. Cook, 104 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Absolutely stonewalled the Tennessee running game, though. And again, the short intermediate routes Tennessee had some success with. All together, though, Georgia did a good job of covering that up. Cedric Tillman, though, did have 200 yards. So the secondary, I don't know, I think for the most part, what they were faced up against, I thought they did a pretty admirable job, even though there was some success there. We'll see how they can play against, an Alabama who's got more athletes, a better quarterback. We'll see what happens. But I think altogether, a very impressive performance for the task they were up against, because this was a game a lot of people were interested in seeing. Alabama, no issues with New Mexico State. 50-point favorites. They covered, won by 56. Bryce Young, 270. Jamison Williams had 3 scores. Brian Robinson ran for 99. Not much there. Oregon, 38-24 on Washington State. This was tied at the half. I went to sleep and woke up and saw Oregon dominated in the second half. They outscored the Cougars 24-10. Jaden DeLora, I thought he had a pretty good game. I really like this kid. I think he's going to be a star as he progresses. I don't know. I think he's a freshman or a sophomore in terms of class. This is his second year, though, so he'll be around for a while. Anthony Brown, 100-plus on the ground and through the air, 2 scores. Did a lot of good things on the ground, leading this run game that was very good. 300-plus yards. They scored 4 touchdowns. Byron Cardwell, he's starting to take over that number 2 running back role behind Travis Dye. I like how the defense for Oregon played, though. Had 2 picks, slowed down the Washington State run. The Ducks, though, their passing attack with Anthony Brown, it seems like their ceiling's kind of been met this year. It doesn't seem like they're going to ever go for 300-plus yards. They do possess nice balance, but, 300, 400, I don't know if they can win the game with their passing game. They have one of the deepest receiving rooms in all of college football, but Anthony Brown, he's been having a pretty good season, but I expected them to be better throwing the football. Still, it's a really good offense, though. Ohio State and Purdue. Right before this game started, I was like, I think being at Columbus is going to help them a lot. I think Ohio State's going to blow them out the water, and that's exactly what they did. 45 points in the first half. This offense could not be stopped. Numbers all around. C.J. Stroud had 5 touchdowns, 361 yards. Only threw 7 incompletions. They had 263 running. They averaged, almost 9 yards per carry. Ryan Williams, Travion Henderson, Garrett Wilson had 4 touchdowns. 3 for Olave. It's just ridiculous. Or 1 for Olave, 4 for Wilson, that is. These guys just could not be stopped. Purdue, they put up 31 of their own. They had a lot of long drives. They were destroying Ohio State's secondary. You kind of figured with this scheme, with this overall offense, they were going to have a lot of success. 400 total yards almost for Aiden O'Connell through the air. He had 4 touchdowns. The secondary was really getting beat underneath. They weren't giving up big plays through the air, but short, intermediate routes underneath, they were getting torched. They could not defend those. They did do a good job of keeping everything in front of them, though. 29 yards was the longest completion of the game for Purdue. But, those short intermediate routes the air raid possesses, it tore them apart. I'm not really overly concerned because they're going to not really see this type of style again, I don't think, for the rest of the year. Ohio State will. But again, they couldn't cover, and it doesn't seem like they did a good job making adjustments, especially in the third quarter. They didn't give up anything in the fourth, though. So for how fast they were scoring and how at the high rate they were doing it at, I'm not too worried. You kind of knew that Purdue was going to have to run a lot of plays. They had no troubles, though, going up and down the field late in the game. I thought the Buckeyes did a good job. They got a few amount of stops. For how fast they were scoring again, they did get numerous stops. They got a handful of stops, especially in that first half. They only gave up 17 points. But again, Purdue had various drives that were long where they just picked apart this zone coverage. Kind of iffy on it because you're not going to see a team like Purdue again, I don't think, probably for the rest of the year. Maybe in the playoffs if they get there, they'll see something similar, but you're not likely going to see the air raid again. But, something to look out for because they did struggle once again overall. Everyone knew this Michigan-Penn State game was going to be very tough for the Wolverines going on the road playing this tough defense. I thought they did a very good job. In that first quarter, they're only down 3-0. Penn State ran 30-plus plays. Michigan, they did a good job not letting it get away from them early because they had given up 2 long drives to Penn State. They had 2 3-and-outs themselves. They were just trying to get their footing down there in University Park. Hassan Haskins, though, 30-plus touches with Blake Corum out. He had 156 yards. I thought they did a good solid job of running against this dominant Penn State front seven. This Michigan team is not like most, though. Typically you're used to seeing them get down like they did late in the game. McNamara, he fumbled. Penn State took the lead on a field goal. They came right back down the field. Eric All, 47 yards for the game-winning touchdown with a couple minutes to go. 3 touchdowns. All 3 of them came from McNamara. He had 200-plus yards. He's pretty effective and efficient. You're not used to seeing that from Michigan. Usually, when they're down late in the game, that's it. That's all she wrote. This year's been clearly different. They showed it against Michigan State, how good they can be throwing the ball, like the balance they have. This offensive line is one of the nation's best. They continue to play it well. Coming in this game, I had Michigan winning because I felt the pass rushing duo of David Ojabo and Aiden Hutchinson, I thought they would have a very good game. Because this Penn State offensive line really struggled this year. And they did even better than I thought. They had 5 sacks between them two. 7 total sacks as a team. 12 tackles for losses. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better performance from that unit. They did a great job, I thought, through the air. Held Sean Clifford only 205 yards. He completed about 50%. Overall, it was a tough afternoon for Sean Clifford. They had some success through the passing game, but altogether, Michigan, they played a very good game on defense. They almost let it slip through the cracks, though, there late in the fourth. 11 points for Penn State. 11 of their 17 came in that final frame. So almost let it slip through the cracks, but they were able to score late and improve to 9-1. Maryland scored a touchdown in the first 3 quarters. They got shut out in the fourth. Michigan State, offensive onslaught from them. Jaden Red got behind not just Jalen Red, but I think most of the receivers. They kind of got behind Michigan State or the Maryland defense often. Peyton Thorne, 287, 4 touchdowns. He was really airing it out. $143 and 2 scores for Kenneth Walker as he continues to make his claim for the Heisman. Pretty easy game for the Spartans. They were never really in danger of losing this one. They had 27 of their 40 points in the first half. Kind of let their foot off the gas there in the second. That's not the first time they've done that this year. But they've clearly showed they're very capable turning it on in the second half, too, like the Michigan game. So, good win for the Spartans. They gear up to play the Buckeyes next Saturday. They rank dead last in college football in pass defense, and they just play a team, I just told you, threw it all over the yard. So, it's going to be a tough matchup for them, but they remain inside the top 8, and they might move up this weekend. Probably not, but Michigan State, 7th right now. They continue to win games with that one loss, and they will play the Buckeyes in a playoff eliminator on Saturday. A lot of people are upset that I picked Baylor to beat Oklahoma, and, well, they did it pretty handily here. I felt that David, because I got torched against TCU in the secondary. Chandler Morris almost had 500 yards, and I felt Dave Aranda and crew, they would fix that. But for them to play this good, that was kind of shocking. They were elite in the secondary. They didn't give up a single thing. It was very tough for Caleb Williams, and then even Spencer Rattler came in at one point. They couldn't even get it to the receivers. It was very tough. The offensive line struggled. That was expected, but they just got dominated in the trenches. I thought the Baylor offensive success would come through the air, but it was reversed. They dominated in the trenches because Oklahoma, this is a pretty good defensive line unit. They do a good job of slowing down the run. They give up 300 yards almost, 2 scores. Bohannon, they could not slow him down. Abraham Smith, they had a big-time troubles tackling him. Baylor 27-14 is the final. Oklahoma had that touchdown essentially in garbage time with a couple minutes to go, so it was not even close to being a contest. It was a very close game for 4 quarters, though, but in that fourth, Baylor pulled away. Outscored them 17-7, but, after that, it was all she wrote. And that garbage time touchdown pulled it in a little bit closer. Baylor, they hit that field goal as time expired. Just something to do with the Big 12 tiebreaker, I guess. I'm not sure about the full details, but their defense played a phenomenal game. You've never seen Oklahoma this shell-shocked on offense. They could not do anything. Held to 182 passing yards, 78 on the ground. Just, wow, phenomenal performance. That probably knocks Oklahoma out of the playoff race because, the committee obviously didn't really respect them much to begin with, sitting at number 8. And they just lost this game. They play Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and then, if they continue to win, they'll be in the Big 12 title game against Baylor or the Pokes again. So we'll see what happens, but they're likely out of the playoff race after losing by double figures to the Bears. Notre Dame made light work of Virginia, 28-3. Brendan Armstrong was out for this game, so they had a lot of trouble scoring. Will Fulk, the backup, he had a couple picks. Got to Keaton Thompson often, but Jack Cohen had 3 touchdowns. The defense was phenomenal, so easy game there for the Irish. Oklahoma State, this is phenomenal. 63 points on TCU. The Pokes offense continues to get better. Granted, TCU defense is not great, but for this offense to have 63 points, to have the balance they did, man, that was impressive. Spencer Sanders made some very good throws. They ran all over the place. Jalen Warren, Damari Richardson, 447 yards running for Oklahoma State. Granted, this is not the first time they've given up 300 or 400 plus yards running. That is the Horned Frogs. They did it again. Everyone was just getting involved. They had 5 different guys with 50 plus yards, so they're really spreading it around. 63 points. They just ran wild on the Frogs, and they dominated on defense as well. 2 for 13 on third downs, 273 total yards for the Frogs. They just got absolutely manhandled in this one. The Pokes, they are still alive themselves in the playoff race. Oklahoma losing definitely doesn't hurt their chances as they're going to have an opportunity to beat them, but Pokes looking really dominant right now. Looking at Texas A&M and Ole Miss. Ole Miss, this defense played great all night long. They had 2 picks late to seal the deal. One was a pick 6 on Zach Calzada. He struggled all night. These guys got shut out at the half. They played much better on offense in the second half, but still, the Aggies could not do what they needed to do to beat the Rebels. I thought their defense played phenomenal as well. The tempo was destroying them. They had 30-plus plays themselves in the first quarter, held them only 15 points in the first half. I remember Kirk Herbstreit was like, feels like it's 35-0, and it was still a 2-score game. That's true. That's really what it felt like. 500-plus yards. They had a very good night running the ball. Jerry and Ely, 152 of the 257 yards. They only had 1 turnover. Very even time of possession. Both teams right there at the 30-minute mark. Ole Miss, though, they were on pace to do a lot more. They had 32 first downs. A&M, this defense is really good. To be able to do that against this defense, to hold them in the red zone numerous times. 1 for 3 on fourth was the Rebels. Just A&M, they were not able to do enough on offense. Calzada did not make a lot of great plays. Everything in the Alabama game this year has not been good. Just watching him, he doesn't make good decisions. Well, I'll take that back. He doesn't make bad decisions, but he doesn't make good ones that affect the team in a good way. I thought they'd run the ball much better too, though, so plenty of blame to be dished around. This front 7 from the Rebels played great all night long. Chance Campbell, Sam Williams, their big-time players really stepped up in a big way. They only had 1 sack on the stat sheet, but you felt their presence, especially against the run. Very good game from Ole Miss. This is a big win for them and Lane Kiffin. It shows that they can compete with the top dogs. I know they got blasted by Alabama earlier in the year, but they clearly can. They're getting much better on defense. We'll see long-term if that's sustainable, but big win for Ole Miss. Wake Forest, 45-42. I picked NC State to win this game pretty handily because I thought they were going to run the ball. They had 18 total attempts. I don't know what Tim Beck was doing. They threw the ball almost 60 times, 400-plus yards, 4 touchdowns for Devin Leary. He had plenty of success. But their defense did its part. Despite giving up 45 points, They forced numerous punts. They had 3 picks on Sam Hartman. He was not efficient at all, 20 of 47. Held them to under 3 yards per carry. The defense did its part. And all the NC State Wolfpack needed to do was run the ball more, to control the clock a bit. And they just refused to do that. They did not want to attempt to run the ball whatsoever. 18 carries is by far the fewest they've had all year. And they led at one point in the third quarter. It's not like they're fighting from behind the entire game. They're down 20-6 at one point. They took the lead early in the third quarter off a kick return touchdown by Zoe Knight. I don't know what they were doing. That's just, they should have won this game. They played really good on defense, even though they gave up 45 points. They only gave up a little north of 400 yards. They forced, let's see here, 6 punts. I mean, they played really good, as best as you can against this Wake Forest offense, and they just didn't want to control the clock. They didn't follow the game plan like they should have. I'm not sure what to say other than good win for Wake Forest. They were able to overcome one of their not best games, or it's not one of their better games of the year on offense, despite putting up 45. They were 10 of 19 on third down, though. That was highly impressive. NC State, on the other hand, 3 of 14 on thirds. They were just consistently in bad situations, third and longs. Again, they did not want to run the ball whatsoever. This is the second worst run defense in the conference, and they didn't even attempt to do it. So pretty disappointing to see that from NC State. Wake Forest with the 45-42 win. Auburn, they led by 25 points over Mississippi State, and in the second half, they couldn't do anything on either side of the ball. 33 points in the second half compared to only 6 for Auburn. Mississippi State, I love this football team. This is a good team this year. They do not get enough respect. They play really good on defense. So offense has really found their stride this year. 415, 6 scores, school record for Will Rogers. Auburn, that's just an ugly performance. You couldn't get anything going at all. It was pretty disappointing to see what Mississippi State did in the first half in their own right. They were down 28-3 at one point in this game. They fought back hard. Auburn, they couldn't run the ball at all. The leading rusher had 1 carry, Javarius Johnson, a wide receiver end around or something. I think it's a backwards pass he took for a touchdown. They couldn't run the ball. 106 yards on 27 touches. Bo Nix he didn't have a bad game. I thought he played pretty well. Just the second half, they couldn't do anything whatsoever. Almost 400 yards for Nix. Yeah, he had a pretty good game. They just could not do anything at all in that second half on either side of the ball. And that really hurt them. I picked Auburn to win the game by a couple of points, even though all year long I've picked the Bulldogs, other than I think the LSU game. And the picks I've made for Mississippi State, I've only picked them to lose like once, other than that game. Glad they did though. I think Mike Leach and the Bulldogs do not get enough credit, so good for them as Auburn blows a second half lead. Wisconsin, Bayou Allen, 173, 3 touchdowns running, 35-7 over Northwestern. They're really playing great on both sides of the ball in the trenches. They're on their way to the Big Ten title game here soon. I don't think that's official, but it will be quite soon. Iowa 27-22 over Minnesota. I saw Spencer Petras was out for the game, and I went, I was probably going to win this game since he's out. And Alex Padilla, 3 touchdowns, 200-plus passing yards. They finally got something going through the air with this guy. I'm glad that somebody else finally got an opportunity to make some plays at quarterback. They still couldn't run the ball. It's been the story all year. Playing a tough defense. They were able to outlast Minnesota. They were down in this game at one point. They fought back. I thought they did a good job defending this Minnesota passing game. It's not like it's a lethal passing game or anything, but Chris Ottman-Bell is a very talented receiver. They got some talented guys. They held Minnesota in check running the ball. 50 carries for 189 yards, pretty solid. I think that's more impressive, though, with what Padilla was able to do. He had a 72-yard touchdown pass at one point. I think it was in the third quarter. You don't see Iowa do that at all. 27 points, especially against a similar team and style. It's pretty impressive. I think Spencer Petras should probably not be the starter the rest of the year. It's time for somebody else to get an opportunity. This guy's he's not very good. And Iowa's offense has been just sluggish, especially because they can't run the ball. So Padilla, maybe they have something in him. Pretty impressive game for the Hawkeyes to be able to win this one at home. San Diego State, they overcame 350 yards and 3 scores from Carson Strong. They threw the ball a little bit better than I expected. Logan Johnson, he made some good plays through the air. They were not good on third down at all, though. 3 of 15. It's not like Nevada was any better, 4 of 13. I didn't watch this game, so I'm not sure how they won. They won by 2 points. Everyone was pretty similar in point, or it's pretty similar in time of possession. and yards. Of course, in points, there's only a 2-point differential there. I didn't watch the game, so I'm not sure what happened. But San Diego State, big win for them because they played Fresno State a few weeks ago, similar team, and they lost by double figures. They're now 9-1. Mountain West in that division. It's got SDSU, Nevada, Fresno. They're all in the same division. It's really heating up here towards the end of the year. Mountain West. It's going to be a very interesting game. The Mountain West Championship game. It is. I'm very excited to see that matchup, whoever it ends up being. I think it's going to be a good one. 8 rushing yards for Nevada, though. That's probably a big reason why they lost. But, Carson Strong is their entire offense, really, with the weapons he has. So they don't really run the ball too much. But Aztecs, they survive at home. UTSA, 27-17 over USM. I don't think Southern missed out a quarterback for this because Frank Gore was the leading passer with four passing attempts. He also ran for 123 yards. I don't think they had any healthy quarterbacks. UTSA, though, they're able to win this game by 10. They stay undefeated. One of 3 teams undefeated. They joined the Bulldogs and the Bearcats. Only 0 lost teams in football. TJ Pledger, 160-plus yards. Couple scores. 38-29. They beat Arizona. They host Oregon next week in a big-time Pac-12 matchup. Even if they lose, they're likely to rematch in the Pac-12 title game. So, likely a glimpse of what we'll see in December. Arkansas's LSU, old-fashioned SEC classic defensive battle. 16-13 in extras was the Hogs. They will be ranked next week as they travel to Alabama. Some other notable finals. Florida 70, Samford 52. Man, I don't even know what to say. They were down double figures. The Gators at the half at home to an FCS school. They gave up 500-plus yards. Emory Jones had like 7 touchdowns, 500-plus of his own. I don't know. That shouldn't even. I don't even know what that score is. That's just insane. Clemson 44, UConn 7. They scored on the opening kickoff. We're all like, uh-oh. But Clemson, they had no issues the rest of the way. I think UConn covered. I think it was like a 1-point line, and they ended up covering. So shout out to UConn for that and the people that had the Huskies. Louisville 41-3 over Syracuse. Now that's a pretty impressive score. Syracuse, they've been playing really good football this year. A lot of one-score games. Looks like they got completely stonewalled on offense. Less than 200 yards. Couldn't contain Malik Cunningham or Jalen Mitchell. Cunningham 4 touchdowns through the year. They've been looking really good on offense, especially Cunningham. Both teams are now 5-5. I hope both of these teams make bowl games. I don't know what. I think maybe there's an FCS school for both teams left on the schedule. I'm not sure, but 2 really good teams to watch. Very, very shocking to see the score. That's a big-time win for the Cardinal. Kansas, they beat Texas in overtime. They led them by double figures at one point in the fourth, and of course, figures they blew it. I don't know what to say. Florida and Texas, they were both pretty disappointing on Saturday. Texas, they've lost now 5 in a row. It's not like they're getting blown out by any means, other than the Iowa State game. I think they got blown out in that. But other than that, Texas, they've been playing close games. They did with Oklahoma State. And Oklahoma, they've played people tough all year. The wheels are coming off here at the end of the year. It's easy to say you're concerned with Texas, but I think long-term for the future, they're going to be okay. Of course, we've said that for years and years. And losing to Kansas as was a 31.5-point favorite. So that's pretty bad, but it happens. I guess I don't know. Trying to put a positive perspective on it, but I think Texas long term they'll be okay. But it looks like they're playing their way out of a bowl game. That's pretty embarrassing right there. ECU, they beat Memphis in overtime. Georgia State topples Coastal Carolina's 14-point dogs. Chanticleer's defense this year has just not been up to par. I know Grayson McCall was out in this game, but the offense clearly is fine. Their defense has been a big struggle point. It was against Appalachian State. It was here against Georgia State. Their defense has been a big disappointment, really, because they got some talented ball players. Iowa State, they lost to Texas Tech on a 62-yard field goal by the Red Raiders. That's wild. I mean, the guy booted the thing. Can't recall his name. I'll put it on the slide for you to see. But their kicker blasted it, man. He could probably hit it from 70. Like, oh man, that was a nice kick. Florida State, they had a 4th and 14 late. They converted on it, set them up for a 1-yard touchdown. They beat Miami. 31-28. That was another impressive win for the Noles to give people, positiveness on Mike Norvell and what could potentially come in the future, Miami, that's pretty disappointing. They've been playing better ball over the last couple weeks. Tyler Van Dyke, this guy might be the future of the Hurricanes at quarterback, another 300-plus yard game. Canes did lose this game, though. Again, though, these two, they usually play in pretty good games, so it's nice to see another one in this rivalry. Notable finals, Tulsa, they beat Twain in extras. UTEP, they lost to North Texas. That's kind of shocking. Back-to-back losses for them. Oregon State, they're now bowl eligible. Going into the year, I was kind of high on this offense more than one of my co-hosts was. We kind of went back and forth on Oregon State. I was higher on them than he was. I'm glad to see this team, Chance Nolan, B.J. Baylor, some good players. They're now bowl eligible. Arizona State, Kentucky, they both beat in-conference opponents. And UCLA, they took care of Colorado. So that's going to wrap everything up for today's episode, guys. Also, Missouri, they beat South Carolina, for those that were wondering. That's going to wrap everything up for today's episode, guys. Really appreciate you tuning in. Leave a comment what your biggest shock of the weekend was. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.